Recording in progress.
Colleagues, if everyone could take their seats, please. It is 7:45. That's why we're starting. Good evening, colleagues. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Newton City Council. We are being both audio and video taped, and I'm going to ask Councilor Lipoff to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Colleagues, we have our regular first call items. We then have a commendation that is going to be led by Councilor Krinsman, and you can see we have a whole bunch of folks here for that, which is absolutely wonderful. And then we have currently 2 items on second call. So I'm going to start off with the Land Use Committee. Councilor Kelly, who is remote this evening. Councilor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry that I'm remote, but I'm trying not to expose you all to some cold germs I've got. The Land Use Committee met on, let me just, whoops, sorry, got the wrong calendar here, on February 27th. We took up items 10-24, which was a request to allow 3 single-family attached dwellings in 2 buildings at 199 Church Street. That was approved unanimously 7-0. Item 115-24, which was a request to amend special permit 178-13 to allow a nonprofit educational use and to waive 3 parking stalls at 14 Collins Road. That was also approved 7-0 unanimously. Item 116-24, a request to amend special permit 67-20 to allow medical marijuana treatment at 1089 Washington Street. That was approved unanimously 7-
That item is on second. That item is on second call.
That item is on second call. Yep, just reporting what we did that night. Sorry, we'll take that up later. 117-24, a request to further extend a non-conforming 2-family dwelling and non-conforming front setback at 265-267 River Street. That was approved 7-0. Request to further, 118-24, request to further extend the non-conforming FAR and to alter the non-conforming number of stories and to alter the non-conforming front setback at 442-444 Lowell Ave. That was approved 7-0. And a request, finally, number 119-24, to allow a retaining wall exceeding 4 feet in height in a setback at 12 Clark Street, and that was also approved 7-0. I would like to assign some public hearings, Mr. President, if I
Please
can
go ahead, Councilor Kelly.
On page 55, item 141-24, I'd like to assign a public hearing for March 12th. That's for 432 Dedham Street, number 316-20. Number 140-24, also on page 56, request to allow 3 stories and to further extend a non-conforming side setback and to exceed the FAR at 86 Floral Street. Also on page 56, also public hearing for March 12th, number 139-24, request to further extend non-conforming FAR and lot coverage at 157 Baldpate Hill Road. I'd like to extend 2 or request 2 public hearings for March 19th on page 56, number 143-24, request to extend FAR at 27 Cross Hill Road, And also on page 56, number 142-24, request to allow oversized dormers in a detached accessory building at 20 Wachusett Road. And that concludes my report for tonight, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chair Kelly. Councilor Lucas?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Kelly, can you just verify 117-24? The report says it was held, but you said it was approved.
117,
Page 48.
yes. Just looking that up. Oh. Sorry, I must be looking at the wrong thing. Oh, it was held. You're correct. Sorry.
Thank you, Councilor Lucas. I appreciate your.
The report says land use held 7-0, so I see why I was confused on that. Part of the brain fog. Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Chair
Vice Chair
Kelly,
Lucas.
and thank you, Councilor Lucas. We have two councilors, by the way, remote this evening, Councilors Kelly and Gentile. All other councilors are in the room. We have one other absence. Next, for the Zoning and Planning Committee, Chair Baker, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. And the Zoning and Planning Committee begins on page 49. We met on the 26th of February. We discussed electrification, which will be coming up again, but I'm just going to report the items upon which we took final action. 7724, this is a discussion regarding 40B process post-safe harbor designation. This is Councilors Oliver, Baker, and Wright requesting a discussion with the Law and Planning Departments regarding the process going forward for Chapter 40B projects since meeting the 10% safe harbor designation. The discussion should address the different parameters that can or will be used to accept, deny, and modify projects, and the criteria allowed to be used by the Zoning Board of Appeals or any other approving authority. We had an extensive memorandum from the Law Department, which is attached to the report, as well as the prior agenda, which seemed to answer the questions that were in the minds of the committee, and so the committee voted no action necessary on that item. And then we had two reappointments to the Zoning Board of Appeals, both of whom were present to be heard. The mayor of reappointing Lee Riley of 130 Pine Street as an associate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals for term of office to expire January 10th, 2025. And then Denise Ciccione as 275 Islington Road as an associate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term of office set to expire on January 10th, 2025. Both of those were approved unanimously, 8-0. And I move the report.
Councilor, Chair Baker, I think 8724 as well, if you would read that out.
We can't because finance has not yet acted on that item.
Thank you for the reminder. All right.
Thank you.
Next, for the Programs and Services Committee, Councilor Krinsman.
Thank you, Mr. President. The report begins on page 50, but the first item is on page 51. Programs and Services met on February 21st. Item 106-24, to establish an NPS Educational Stabilization Fund. That item was approved 8-0. Item 107-24, that item is to appropriate funds to an NPS Educational Stabilization Fund, was also approved by a vote of 8-0. Next item is on second call. Next item was held, and then item 95-24, the appointment of Daniel Green to the Newton Commonwealth Foundation was approved by the committee 8-0. With that, I would move the report.
Thank you, Chair Krinsman. Chair Albright for the Public Facilities Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Public Facilities Report begins at the bottom of page 51. And the item 112-24, Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend $1,191,000 from the June 30th certified free cash to complete the funding for the Newton Free Library's chiller and related cooling equipment replacement project. That was approved by Public Facilities 8-0. And the other two items were held. We had a discussion on public buildings construction projects and the water sewer plans from DPW. Thank you very much, and I move the report.
Thank you. And I skipped over Chair Grossman for Public Safety and Transportation, but I think her report will be short.
Thank you, Mr. President. There is no report this evening.
Thank you. Next, for the Finance Committee, Councilor Gentile, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The report begins on page 52. The first item is docket item 98-24. Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to transfer the opioid mitigation funds in the amount of $446,104.67 for use by the Health and Human Services Department into a special revenue fund. That was approved 8-0. Next item is 106-24. Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to establish a Newton Public Schools Educational Stabilization Fund. That was approved by a vote of 8-0. 107-24. Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate a total of $22 million into the NPS Educational Stabilization Fund. That was approved 8-0. 108-24, this was Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to issue refunding bonds to refund all or any portion of the city's general obligation bonds, approved 8-0. 109-24, Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend a total of $7,800,000 for the New Cal project. This item was approved by a vote of 6 in favor, with none in opposition and 2 abstaining. So it was approved 6-0 to 2. 110-24, Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to accept and expend $35,000 from the Executive Office of Public Safety for a reimbursement grant that was awarded to the Newton Fire for firefighter safety equipment. This was approved 8-0. Authorization to issue an RFP for the Newton Public Schools for food service contract. Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to issue an RFP with a food service management company for a duration of up to 5 years. This was approved by a vote of 7-1. Top of page 54, 112-24, Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend $1,191,000 from June 30th, 23 certified free cash to complete the funding for the Newton Free Library's chiller and related cooling equipment. This was approved by a vote of 6-1. 113-24, Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to accept and expend $30,785 in grant funds from the Massachusetts Office on Disability for Williams Elementary School playground accessibility improvements. This is approved by a vote of 8-0. 22-24, the Community Preservation Committee recommending $125,000 in CPA funding for the Historic Resource Reserve funds for a grant to the Second Church in Newton for the restoration work. This was approved by a vote of, it says on the report 7-0 to 1, but I'm thinking possibly, Councilor Humphrey, did you actually vote against that?
Thank you. I did vote against that. I also wanted to correct the 112-24. I did vote for that.
Okay.
All right, we'll let the record reflect both those corrections. Thank you, Councilor Humphrey, for raising that. Go ahead, please, Chair.
That was approved by a vote of 7-1. And then the last item is 99-24, again, acceptance of a grant to expend funds in the amount of $27,500 to the City of Newton from the National Environmental Health Association for the purpose of improving the city's conformance with U.S. Food and Drug Administration program standards. And that was approved by a vote for 8-0. And before I move the report, I just wanted to quickly share one piece of information with the council and members of the public. The city of Newton last week had its annual meeting with Moody's Investment Services to discuss the financial health of the city, which is one step in the process for us to receive our bond rating for this year. We expect that the Moody's report could be back to us and available as early as this Thursday. Hopefully, it will support our AAA bond rating, but we won't know until the report comes back. And as soon as we have it and it can be released, I will ask that it be shared with the rest of the council. And with that, I would move the report.
Thank you, Chair Gentile. With that, I'm going to ask Councilor Krinsman to come up, please, I'm going to bring him in. And can we have a motion to suspend the rules to invite the Newton South High School ski team within the rail? So moved. All in favor? Please say, come on up. Come on up. How are you? Congratulations.
It is with great pleasure that I get to present this commendation to the Newton South High School Boys Nordic Ski Team. What I'm going to do here is just read it very quickly so everyone can understand what it says. I'll then present it to the boys, and we'll even encourage parents, if you'd like to come up in here to get a better picture.
Yeah, feel free to come within the rail if that helps.
So whereas the Newton South Boys Nordic Ski Team had an outstanding season, earning the title of MIAA Boys Nordic Ski Champions, the first ever title in Nordic skiing for Newton South. And whereas the Newton South Boys Nordic Ski Team faced 18 teams and defeated last year's MIAA Boys Nordic State Champion Mount Greylock High School and their defending individual champion by 6 points. And whereas senior captain Liam Sakakini became the second state champion in school history with an elapsed time of 18 minutes and 49 seconds. And whereas the Newton South Boys Nordic Ski Team win was highlighted by a stunning 1st, 4th, 8th, and 9th place finish of its top 4 skiers, scoring a total of 22 points as a team. Now, therefore, be it known that in recognition of the Newton South Boys Nordic Ski Team's unparalleled achievements in 2024, the Honorable City Council, representing the entire city of Newton, congratulates the members of the state champion Newton South High School Nordic Ski Team for their accomplishments.
Coach?
So I'm Jeff Ricklin. I want you to recognize Ms. Gonzalez, who's our athletic director here. As most of you know, it really takes a community to raise a team. Craig Keller, who's there with the watch cap on, is our wax king, because as most of you know, if the wax ain't good, you don't ski. And without Craig, we really wouldn't be able to do it. Shayna Fiddler, who's my assistant coach, first time, a rookie, really also helped us. But the boys last year lost by a few points to Greylock, and afterwards it said, Ricklin, we're gonna win this damn thing next year. And they worked really hard, they dedicated themselves, and we're really proud, and we're proud to represent Newton, so thank you.
You ready to call the roll for first call, Ms. Moore?
Counselor Albright.
Aye.
Counselor Baker. Aye. Counselor Bixby. Aye. Counselor Block.
Aye.
Counselor Danberg. Counselor Downs. Aye. Counselor Farrell.
Aye.
Counselor Gentile.
Aye.
Counselor Getz.
Aye.
Counselor Greenberg.
Aye.
Counselor Grossman.
Aye.
Counselor Humphrey.
Aye, except for 115-24, for which I am recused, and nay on 22-24, 109-24, and 111-24. Thank you.
Counselor Kalis.
Aye.
Counselor Kelly.
Aye.
Counselor Krinsman.
Aye.
Counselor Leary.
Aye.
Counselor Lipoff.
Aye.
Counselor Lobovitz.
Aye.
Counselor Lucas.
Aye.
Counselor Maliki.
Aye, with the exception of number 10-24, a land use item on which I'll vote no because it involves a accessory dwelling unit that's being switched to a condo, and I think that's a breach of faith which should not be supported.
Just to confirm, it's item 10-24? Thank you. Counselor Mickley.
Aye.
Counselor Oliver.
Aye, with the exception of 22-24, for which I vote no.
Counselor Wright.
Aye.
President Laredo.
Aye.
Hold for one moment. Okay.
Go ahead, please, Ms. Moore.
First call, the vote is 23 yeas and 1 absent, with the exception of item 115-24, with 22 yeas, 1 recusal, and 1 absent. Item 22-24, with 21 yeas, 2 noes, 1 absent. Docket item 109-24, with 22 yeas, 1 no, 1 absent. Item 111-24, with 22 yeas, 1 nay, 1 absent. And item 10-24, with 22 yeas, 1 no, 1 absent.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. That concludes our first call. We have 2 items on second call. I'm going to recognize Chair Albright first. I'll just ask her, I'm sorry, did I say, forgive me, Chair Albright, Councilor Albright put this on second call. This is Councilor Krinsman's committee, Programs and Services. Colleagues, I'm just going to ask in advance that since this item has been fairly extensively discussed both in committee and at a chair's meeting, that we try to keep our comments on this brief, since unlike many other items, we've had a chance to hear one another previously. With that said, I don't want to forestall anyone from speaking or from presenting a view that they haven't had an opportunity to do so before. So with that, Councilor Krinsman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be short, and I'll also be brief. Item 121-24, this was the request for amendments to the council rules and ordinances regarding the start time of city council meetings. I think folks will recall that at the chair's meeting a couple weeks ago, we discussed moving the start time of our full city council meetings from 7:45. This item was designed to implement what came out of that chairs meeting. And if folks recall, at that chairs meeting, the initial proposal was to move city council meeting start time to 7 p.m. instead of 7:45. After sort of a long discussion, as the president alluded to, we came up with a compromise of 7:30 p.m. This was the docket item to implement the 7:30 p.m. start time. What happened at committee was that the motion to approve the item failed, ultimately by a vote of 3 to 5.
Thank you, Chair Krinsman. Councilor Albright, you placed this on second call. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. So what I'd like to do is substitute a motion to approve for the motion to deny, and I'll speak to that if that's...
I think you need a second. Is there a second by Councilor Oliver? Go ahead, please, Councilor Albright.
So just to start with, I wanted to see what other cities and towns were doing, so I did Google around just to see didn't spend that much time on it, but I found 32 different cities and towns all across the Commonwealth, and 83% of them have start times of 7 o'clock or earlier, 2 of them during the day, but others at 6:30 and the rest at 7. And 96% start before 7:30 or earlier. So there was only one place, I think it was Haverhill, that started at 8 o'clock, and all the rest of them were earlier. So just to give us some context for the rest of the Commonwealth. As Councilor Krinsman said, we discussed it at the chairs meeting, and based on a poll, the council had asked for a start time of 7, but we compromised on 7:30. I just want to remind everyone that our esteemed president thinks that after 10 o'clock, we don't do very well in making decisions. So the earlier we start the meetings, the more we can get done before the hour of 10 o'clock. The other thing I want to say is that citizens have a hard time waiting until 8 o'clock to come and listen to our meetings. And although it's only 15 minutes, I'm hoping that some council in the future will move it back another 15 minutes to 7:15 and give citizens a break. I did spend some time talking with Councilor Mickley, who feels very strongly about counselors with young children to have the time to be with them, and I totally empathize with that. But however, as children do grow up, and after the age of, let's say, 5, they're really not interested in us being around for bath time anymore. So I think that we can still have families with young children and get our work done. And I think, so I would just ask that my colleagues vote for 7:30 and that we have the motion to approve instead of a motion to deny.
So colleagues, so we're clear, the discussions on the amendment, which is to change this to a vote to approve from a vote to deny, but obviously since this deals with really the merits of the issue, I think discussion of the merits is in order. So Councilor Baker, go ahead, please.
So I want to say a word for tradition. I've been attending these meetings at 7:45 now for 40 years. And I think that the value of doing that is that we not only have an opportunity for us to spend a little time at home before the meetings in which our votes count in a final way. Committee votes are important because they set the stage, and we can get those started at 7 o'clock. But there are also plenty of times when members of the council need to meet beforehand in committee meetings or other group conversations as have been going on recently. And I think that the 7:45 time still provides us an opportunity to get things done well before 10 o'clock, which I hope this discussion will demonstrate tonight.
Thank you, Councilor Baker. Councilor Mickley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, this is a tricky one, right? This is obviously personal to me. I do have young kids. My youngest is 1. Might not be the last, so who knows? There could be many more years of young kids. And
we should only hope so.
We should only hope so. You know, we'll see. If anyone wants to help with bath time, guaranteed for the next 4 years, then I'm glad to commit to 7:30 right now. But if not, yeah, it's a hard time. And for me, it's not just a preference, it's a step function, right? Those extra 15 minutes make the difference of whether I'm there for bath time and bedtime or not. And I love the spirit of compromise. I actually was really moved that the city council compromised on 7:30. But if you look at our other meetings, we have 2 other meetings that start at 7. So to me, having one meeting that starts at 7:45 and 2 others that start at 7 as part of a regular calendar is already a compromise. And I also would like to say that parents with young kids is one demographic of which I am a part of that find it really hard to get involved in things that start early. We make sacrifices. Having it go to 7:45 makes a difference of whether we can be there for our kids one more night a week, 2 nights a month, not many nights, or not. 7:30 tonight, that's exactly when my kids were in bed. That's when I jumped in the car. I got here exactly at 7:45. And there's other groups too. That extra 15 minutes isn't just a convenience, it's a step function of the quality of life of the things they can do. And I've been pleased so far that our meetings have been ending way before 10. So if it does become an issue later on in the term, I'm glad to revisit the start time, but I would like to continue with 7:45. And I urge you, if you have a slight preference for 7:30, think about the strong step function preference for those that want 7:45 like me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mickley. Councilor Lucas, Maliki, then Grossman.
Thank you, President Laredo. I'll try to be brief. I agree with Councilor Albright with her comments. I spoke with her beforehand, and she also informed me that the school committee starts at 6:30. We start at 7:45. I thought at the chair's meeting, the 7:30 start time was a compromise between 7 and 7:45, but the committee had a different opinion. And that's fine, but I think we should go for 7:30, so I'll vote to amend the report to 7:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Lucas. Councilor Maliki.
Okay, my nerdy reason for preferring the 7:45 start time is that I can catch an earlier meeting that starts at 7, for example, planning board tonight. I think sometimes it's Parks and Recreation. And if we're concerned about how late we run, we could all talk less.
I think you just set a fine example there, Councilor Maliki. Councilor Grossman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll start with what was going to be my second point because it dovetails on what Councilor Maliki just said. I'm a believer that work expands to fill the time. And if we start earlier, I don't have a lot of confidence that extra hour is going to mean we end earlier. I actually think it might just mean we each speak longer. So just something to think about. I also just wanted to quickly say I'm a supporter of the 7:45 start time. And yes, part of the demographic of people with relatively young children, although at this point my oldest is almost 13. And I can just say it's not just about bath time in bed. Now it's about homework, and it's about sporting events, and it's about being able to pick her up and get her home and have enough time to get a healthy meal on the table, look presentable, and get out the door and be here. And the difference between the 7 o'clock committee meetings and 7:45 is extremely significant to me in terms of what the evening feels like. The 15 minutes, if the compromise passes, I will live with it. But it really is helpful, and it's not just about this group, it's about who looks at this job and thinks that they can do it and make it work. So I ask you all to think about that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Grossman. Councilor Wright, and then Farrell.
I'm going to support the 7:45. Most of these meetings are pretty short, hour and a half, maybe 2. And if we're going to go much longer, we could start earlier, like on ZAP. Sometimes we start at 6:30. And I think 7:45 will be fine.
Great, thank you. Another example of a very short comment. We're doing a great job tonight, colleagues. Councilor Farrell.
I changed my vote after listening to several councilors, and I was persuaded that 7:45, in fact, was a better start time. I have spoken a couple of times about trying to make sure we end on time, and I couldn't agree more with Councilor Grossman that work expands to the time available. And if we just speak more quickly, in addition to which I don't have children, but I have a commitment very early in the morning and very late at night to a 4-legged beast who has kept me alive for 12 years. So I want to be home, but 7:45 makes sense.
Thank you. Is there anyone, Councilor Oliver, did you want to be heard? No. I'm sorry, Councilor Leary.
I really didn't have a strong preference initially, but listening to the counselors who have young children has persuaded me that perhaps the 7:45 is the better time, although I never really was one for healthy meals or looking presentable. I guess other but I want to be sensitive to people that are.
All right, anybody else wish to be heard? Counselor Albright.
Councilor Rukitz reminded me that I did not say that I did speak with the president of the PTO Council, and their PTO Council meetings all start at 7:30, as do most of the PTO meetings. And if I mean, that's by definition meetings full of parents, and they manage to do it at 7:30.
All right, okay, thank you, Counselor Albright. Anybody else wish to be heard on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
This is on the amendment.
Let me be clear, we are voting on the motion to amend. So if you vote in favor of the motion to amend, you are looking to approve a 7:30 start time. If you vote against the motion to amend, you want a 7:45 start time as we have now. In other words, the status quo remains in effect. Is that clear to everybody? And if there is the motion to amend, regardless of the results in the motion to amend, we're still going to have to vote the main item out. Okay? But I trust we won't need more discussion on it afterwards. Go ahead, please.
Counselor Albright.
Aye.
Counselor Baker.
No.
Counselor Bixby.
Aye.
Counselor Block.
Nay.
Counselor Danberg. Counselor Downs.
Aye.
Counselor Farrell.
No.
Counselor Gentile.
No.
Counselor Getz.
No.
Counselor Greenberg.
Aye.
Counselor Grossman.
No.
Counselor Humphrey.
Aye.
Counselor Kalis.
Aye.
Counselor Kelly.
Aye.
Counselor Krinsman.
Aye.
Counselor Leary.
No.
Counselor Lipoff.
Aye.
Counselor Lobovitz.
No.
Counselor Lucas.
Aye.
Counselor Maliki.
No.
Counselor Mickley.
No.
Counselor Oliver.
Aye.
Counselor Wright.
No.
President Laredo.
No.
Motion fails, 11 yeas, 12 nays, 1 absent.
Okay, we're going to vote on the main item now, which is to deny the request to change the start time. So does someone want to be heard on that? All right, so if you're voting aye or if you're voting aye or yay, you are voting to keep the start time at 7:45. If you vote no, you're rejecting the denial, essentially. Everybody clear on that? Okay, please call the roll.
Counselor Albright.
No.
Counselor Baker.
Aye.
Counselor Bixby.
Aye.
Counselor Block.
Aye.
Counselor Danberg. Counselor Downs.
Aye.
Counselor Farrell.
Aye.
Counselor Gentile. Counselor Gentile.
Aye.
Counselor Getz.
Aye.
Counselor Greenberg.
No.
Counselor Grossman.
Aye.
Counselor Humphrey.
Aye.
Counselor Kalis.
No.
Counselor Kelly.
Aye.
Counselor Krinsman.
No.
Counselor Leary.
Aye.
Counselor Lipoff.
No.
Counselor Lobovitz.
Aye.
Counselor Lucas.
No.
Counselor Maliki.
Aye.
Counselor Mickley.
Aye.
Counselor Oliver.
No.
Counselor Wright.
Aye.
President Laredo.
Aye.
Motion carries 16 yeas, 7 nays, 1 absent.
All right, thank you. We have one more item on second call. It was placed there by Counselor Block. It's a land use item. So Chair Kelly, would you read into the record and give us a brief report?
Yes, Mr. President. Item 116-24 was placed on second call by Counselor Block, who I'm sure will speak to it next. Ascend, or as we used to call them, Ascend or Green RE West Newton LLC, to amend a special permit to include medical marijuana patients at 1089 Washington Street, which was approved unanimously 7-0 on February 27th by the Land Use Committee. So Councilor Block can talk to why he put it on second call.
Councilor Block, go ahead, please.
Thank you, President Laredo. This item concerns a petition to allow medical marijuana sales in addition to recreational marijuana sales that are currently allowed. During the public hearing, a member of the public testified that the parking lot was often full, and as a result, parked cars often spilled over into the neighborhood. This member of the public suggested that adding medical marijuana services at the current site would make this problem worse. Criteria number 6 for determining whether to approve this petition, as detailed in the board order, is as follows. Traffic generated by client trips, employee trips, and deliveries to and from the MTC will not create a significant adverse impact on nearby uses because there is sufficient amount of parking on site per the Newton zoning ordinance. Sorry for the feedback. How do we determine whether there is sufficient parking? During the committee discussions, several councilors commented they'd never seen the parking lot full, or that the addition of medical marijuana services would not likely to add a significant number of customers. I asked whether we had any data on the usage of the parking lot and how often it was at 100% capacity. The short answer is we do not have this information. In my opinion, the absence of empirical data makes it difficult to make a determination whether there is sufficient amount of parking so as not to create a significant adverse impact on nearby uses. It should not be difficult or expensive to obtain this kind of data. My purpose in putting this item on second call is simply to bring this issue to the council's attention, and I intend to discuss this with the planning department. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Block. Councilor Wright.
So I'm probably the closest to Ascend, and I go by it quite frequently since I avoid West Newton Square like the plague. And I have seen the parking lot quite full. A Friday around 3 o'clock, the parking lot was full. Cars were trying to find a spot, and more cars on Washington Street. Sunday at 3 and 5 o'clock, the same thing, about 10 cars on Washington Street and people waiting for spots. Today I went by at 3:30 and 5:30. It was about 3/4 full, half full. So during certain times they do have an issue with parking, but listening to land use meeting is that they actually have more parking than is required. So I don't think it's on them that they don't have enough parking. And again, it's only during certain times. It might be what we're requiring, and especially now in the village centers, we're not requiring any parking for businesses. And then now they're going to have medical marijuana, and according to land use, what they were talking about, the percentage of people they expect is much smaller, and I personally think that some of the people who are just buying marijuana may switch over to the medical marijuana. So I don't think there's going to be a big increase. I have more concerns, and it was brought up, is like the rain garden. And I went by there today, and there's quite a bit of water in there. There's water in it most of the time, and it's still water, and I worry about mosquitoes and things like that. And that's something maybe working with ISD to go, and hopefully they would fix it, because it does not look like a good plan there. But for the parking, some of the times it is full and other times it isn't. It just depends.
Thank you, Councilor Wright. Councilor Albright.
It's my recollection from working with the medical marijuana dispensary in my ward on Washington Street, that after the patients come in and decide what they want to buy, they often have delivery, after that first initial interaction at the store. So I'm not sure how much new traffic that this is going to really cause. And I think that we ought to provide another. I think there's only one medical dispensary in Newton, the one on Washington Street in my ward, and I think we ought to provide our patients some options.
Great. Councilor Lucas.
Thank you, President Laredo. So with the marijuana dispensaries in Newton, we have, I believe, 3 more that are going to open. One on Chestnut Street, which is not opened yet. One on Route 9 in Chestnut Hill, which I don't believe has opened up yet. And the one on Rumford Ave in Auburndale has not opened up yet. Those have not opened up yet. So once those 3 open, I think that will help with the traffic and parking situation at the one in West Newton. Councilor Wright said something when she was speaking that they have more parking than required on site at Ascend. So even if the planning department or the petitioner did their own analysis on the parking, they are already providing more than what is required. They are already going up and beyond what they need to do. In Newtonville, we have Garden Remedies. They have recreational and medical. The city made them build that parking lot, and that parking lot is never fully occupied. It just isn't. There's on-street parking, which I do see a lot of cars there, but the parking lot is not full at all. So the parking situation and the traffic trips generated by Garden Remedies has not adversely affected the community now that we have seen more more recreational and marijuana dispensaries open up in the region. So it is I don't want to say it's a non-factor, but it will not adversely affect the community with the additional car trips. So I'm going to be voting for it again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Lucas. Is there anyone else? Oh, Councilor Downs, forgive me.
I just want to stand to second the comments of Councilor Lucas and Councilor Wright on parking.
Great, thank you. Councilor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I'd like to just speak briefly to this. There was a neighbor, perhaps 2 actually, who spoke up at the last meeting being concerned about parking on side streets. And we were also advised by the law department that granting an amendment to this special permit for us, the city council does not have purview over, nor does this private enterprise Ascend have purview over monitoring parking on public streets. It's not clear that the parking on Wiswall or Cross is a result of Ascend. It's not clear that the people who are parking in the Ascend lot are actually Ascend customers. We also have Trader Joe's over there. Parking became the main consideration, though I appreciate Councilor Wright's concern about the safety of the rain garden in terms of stagnant water in the summer. I think these are things that we can handle in different ways that are not city council matters. I think zoning enforcement should be called to the attention of the rain garden compliance, and I think there are other things that can be done about the parking. So I agree with planning that when this first special permit was granted, Ascend, now called something slightly different, exceeds the parking requirement minimums for this use, including medical use. And I don't think that we should be holding up this permit for medical patients for these reasons. I will vote against putting this on second call. I think we vetted it pretty thoroughly.
It is on second call, Councilor Kelly.
I'm sorry, I will vote against it. I will vote against reneging on it, whatever is the right terminology.
I think you'll vote to approve if you want this to go forward, which is fine.
Okay. However you word the vote, I don't think we should give this up.
I'll guide us when the time comes to make sure we're all
Thank
collectively
you.
on
I
the
think
same
we've done our
page.
due diligence and we should proceed with granting this request.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Leary and then Block.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Councillor Kelly made some excellent comments, and I'm in full agreement. I don't want to dismiss some of the concerns of the neighbors regarding parking or safety, which I heard because I am on land use. And I would suggest that perhaps going through traffic council is one way to try and figure that out, but I don't want to hold it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leary. Councillor Block.
You may have noticed I wasn't asking this body to deny this petition. The petitioner, in his testimony, stated that Massachusetts is projecting that 20% of the population will be cannabis users. I don't know what that time frame is. I don't know what it is today, but this is expected to be a growth industry. And I think collecting parking data in the location where all of the cannabis shops provide for their customers would not be a bad idea to help us track what's going on with this industry. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard on this item? All right, seeing none, we're going to call the roll so we're clear. If you're voting aye or yay for the item, you are voting to approve the land use special permit. If you vote no, you're voting against the special permit. Clerk Moore, will you call the roll, please?
Councillor Albright.
Aye.
Councillor Baker.
Aye.
Councillor Bixby.
Aye.
Councillor Block.
Aye.
Councillor Danberg. Councillor Downs.
Aye.
Councillor Farrell.
Aye.
Councillor Gentile.
No.
Councillor Getz.
Aye.
Councillor Greenberg.
Aye.
Councillor Grossman.
Aye.
Councillor Humphrey.
Aye.
Councillor Kalis.
Aye.
Councillor Kelly.
Aye.
Councillor Krinsman.
Aye.
Councillor Leary.
Aye.
Councillor Lipoff.
Aye.
Councillor Lobovitz.
Aye.
Councillor Lucas.
Aye.
Councillor Malachy.
Aye.
Councillor Mickley.
Aye.
Councillor Oliver.
Aye.
Councillor Wright.
Aye.
President Laredo.
Aye.
Motion carries 22 yeas, 1 nay, 1 absent.
Thank you. Councillor Lipoff, do we have a motion to adjourn? We are adjourned at 8:37. Thank you all very much. Just a reminder, everyone, we have a committee of the whole meeting Thursday night, dinner at 6, the meeting at 7. It's at the Allen House, not here. Okay, hope to see everybody there. Thank you.